What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady. Alright, this story's called Sorry Lady, I work here to fix your crap, but I'm not an employee. Hi Reddit! I sorted old papers when I found some reminders of this story. A little explanation. I am a security expert. My main profile is facility security and fire prevention. On demand, I give information about work safety and environmental hazards. Enterprises hire me to find the risks they face. It means that at first contact, I have a first glance of my future client's site. We have a talk about what they need, then I tell how many on-site days that will cost them. The task includes interviews, examination of regulations, and, of course, assessment of the complex. It's not a job that can be done 100% in a suit and tie. There are dirty places where I have to climb, and although I use a drone for high places, sometimes I have to climb industrial ladders, etc. For such occasions, I use military khaki coveralls with caterpillar boots. Work helmets and safety ropes if necessary will be important later. After the on-site days, I will prepare my report in the form requested, but it is not uncommon for management to ask for a presentation in addition to the documents where questions can be asked. This is especially true when the company that commissioned me already had problems. This is also important later. On to the story. So I was hired by the owner of a company of rising activity. Big enough site, industrial buildings, heavy machinery, spectacular office building. The owner is a smart guy, a pleasant conversationalist, but the kind with whom you count your fingers after a handshake. We agreed on what he wanted to investigate, how many days it was for him, and what I needed to access, all for how much. The guy knew he wasn't throwing away the money he was paying me. Annoying thefts took place and he did other things, but I refrained from talking about them because that would have oriented my research. At companies this size, in many cases, the security and the fire prevention is regarded as a kind of inner service provided by the facility management department. This was the case at this company too. When I begin a job like this, I always begin with the interviews of the security personnel. It's a good source of intel and they will know me from day one, so no confusion on the following days. I went on with them, checked the camera system, burglar alarm, access control, fire alarm, etc. By the time I get to corporate policies, I have already found serious shortcomings. But the dirty part only followed. It was scheduled for the beginning of the second day to interview the head of the FMD. But when I showed up at her office at the allotted time, I only found her very embarrassed assistant there. The young lady said, "Mrs. Name had to leave and was only expected in the afternoon." But she was willing to help. I didn't tell her. It took me enough effort to overcome her initial embarrassment. But the conditions I could examine with her help were hair-raising. The third day was the day where I put my workwear, helmet, camera, tablet, and measuring instruments. The places I had to reach had access from the inside parking lot. Some of the parking spots were marked for top management, who had company cars. The top management, 4 people, parked large but not ostentatious cars in the dedicated parking lots, alongside a few more modest company cars for lower-ranking managers. I was ready to climb a 20-meter or around 65 feet high industrial ladder. What takes 2 hands, so I turned the camera on. I needed a few seconds to put my gloves on when I heard this. I had it on cam too. "Hey, you!" I looked in the direction of the voice. It was a woman, very manager-like, very bossy, and the arrogance shone from her. She was approximately 5 feet 6 inches, fit and plastic with a modeled, expensive hairstyle. Apart from her, I was the only one in the parking lot, so it could not be a mistake to whom the kind words were addressed. Before I could speak, she continued in a commanding commanding voice. "Grab my box and put it in my car. Come on, move!" Usually I am a polite, not to say chivalrous guy, but only with humans. She did not act like one by my standards, so I told her, "No, I'm busy. Do it yourself." And I begin to climb the ladder. After a moment of dead silence, I heard her shout, "How dare you! Who is your boss? I will get you fired!" I did not care for the ranting, but I was already more than 7 feet high on the ladder when I felt her grab my ankle. "Come back down at once! I am speaking to you!" she shouted. "Listen," I told her, "I don't know you, but I presume you think that I am an employee here. I am not. Those people working in the industrial buildings, they wear blue. Janitors wear red. Guards wear black. They probably endure when you speak to them in such a tone. I do not. I'm climbing this ladder now. If you let go of my ankle, I will climb alone. If you don't let go, you will come with me." She was so surprised that she let go of my ankle. I climbed the ladder, but I still heard her huff and puff. She found someone else to load her car. Then she went away. I noted the number of her parking. Sometime later, I edited my report. The owner scheduled a meeting with top management and Mrs. Name, who, as head of FMD, was responsible for the activities I had to investigate. At the time of the meeting, I arrived some 5 minutes early, but the 4 big bosses were already there. We were just waiting for Mrs. Name while we talked about nothing. In a few words, it was obvious that all 4 had read my report and had questions. It didn't escape my attention that as a kind of in-house joke, bets were made on how much Mrs. Name would be late. She arrived 10 minutes late. The owner won the bet. When the owner presented me, first she got red, then white. She was the rude lady of the parking lot. When I begin my presentation, she was aggressive and arrogant, but I left no place for doubt. So when I was finished, she was completely devastated. In short, the company risked a fine of approximately $60,000 due to a series of irregularities and thefts, and material damage were caused by poorly written policies and faulty contracts. This could all have been written at Mrs. Name's expense, but the management felt they could have paid more attention. As always, my report included detailed suggestions for solutions, so Mrs. Name left not with the promise of dismissal, but with as much to do as she had never experienced before. Even then and there, they asked me for a check back 3 months later. The check back was only 1 day, but I was with Mrs. Name for almost 7 hours that day, who was looking at my eyes no more than 5 times in total from that time. Edit. I saw many comments asking, "Why was she not fired?" I have to tell you, the management leaders also felt guilty, and for a reason. It was a fast-growing company where one of the consequences of the growth was the emergence of new risks and legal obligations, and the new safety and fire prevention tasks were simply put around this lady's neck without any special support. Yet, one of the 4 top managers was also the company's lawyer, and the other was the logistics boss. Mrs. Name had done an excellent job with facility management until then, but did not cope with the new tasks. And because it's a rather militant nature, it was thought that his complaints about safety and fire prevention were just the usual lightning and thunder. I know this because some 2.5 years later, when the company went from 1 site size to a 4 site size, she was the one who asked me for a consultation. At the time, she was much more confident in her duties and a much calmer, more civilized person. And it's been a few years since. I don't know what can happen to her now. Hey, good on her for, growing up and being mature about it. That's like an impossible task for many people, so it's appreciated. Alright, this story's called Karen Can't Understand Basic Kindness. This is a generally wholesome story with a comedic Karen encounter. When I was 17, I worked at McDonald's. Now, the fact that the red and black uniform of McDonald's looks nothing like the blue-centric Walmart uniform has a little bearing on this story, because as we know, the only colors a Karen can see are beneath me and my reflection. Whoa! First of all, bro, I am digging the the sick nasty alliteration everywhere. Comedic Karen encounter, only colors a Karen can see, so good. So I was visiting Walmart after work, straight out of work. I was still in uniform and my hair was a mess, so I still had my McDonald's hat on. I swung by electronics to check out the games, and while I was looking at them, there was a pretty young kid, like 10, and his mother talking to an employee about what game he wanted to get. I overheard their whole conversation while looking at the games myself. He wanted a Pokemon game, but didn't know which one to get. It was between Ruby and Emerald. How old is this story? Pretty sure Emerald came out like 2003 or 4, something like that. Anyway, it's like Game Boy Advance. The kid was clearly into Pokemon, but this was his first time getting one of the games because he just got his first Game Boy and he could only get one. Oh my god, memories. His mom clearly had no idea, and the employee, a very pleasant older gentleman who didn't know beans about something like Pokemon, were trying to puzzle out the difference between the two games. I loved the kid's enthusiasm and totally understood his anxiety about wanting to get the right one, and since I could see his mother and the employee struggling, I went ahead and politely interjected myself. As a big fan of the games, I knew an unhealthy amount about them. I explained the general differences between the games and answered his questions about them, and he ended up going with Emerald. His biggest concern was making sure he could get a Torchic. After the very relieved adults headed off to the register to check out, I was about to leave when an older woman with her husband got my attention and asked, "I need help with the TVs." I responded, "Sorry, I don't really know anything about TVs." "Well, why not? Aren't you expected to?" she huffed back. I realized that in spite of my uniform, she thought I was an employee. I laughed and told her, "Sorry, I don't work here. I work for McDonald's." She huffed again and said, "Well, you were helping those people just a minute ago." Yes, because I knew the answer and was able to help. Why would you do that if you don't work here? I was genuinely baffled by the question, and I just looked at her and said, "To be nice?" "Well, I don't know why you would do something like that." I just stared at her. Like, how do you even respond to that? After a moment of silence, she finally said, "So can you help me with the TVs or not?" I just said, "No," and walked away. I don't quite understand what about basic human kindness is so confusing, but there it sits. But the little boy got his Torchic, and at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Yes, it is. That was so cool. Holy crap, that like put my mind back in 2004 mode for like a little bit, or like a small part of me was just like a small percentage of me was just in this state of 2004 or 5 or 4. I don't know, something around that time. It's pleasant because I was a kid back then. I mean, I'm still a kid basically, but damn, Pokemon. I got Pokemon Fire Red for my blue Game Boy Advance SP. It was given to me by my older cousin Myra, who has a book published called Patient S on Amazon. Pretty cool, check it out. Anyway, she gave me a freaking copy cartridge thing of Fire Red. She had 2, and it was so cool. Be it the Elite Four. I didn't catch them all though, but who cares? I had my Charizard, I had Articuno, I had Zapdos, and Moltres. I'm pretty sure you can get all of them in Fire Red. If I didn't get all of them, I got most of them. I got all the legendaries you could get. This story's called "Today Was a Bad Day for Me to Be Lazy." So basically, I'm sorta irresponsible and I didn't do my laundry one day, and it's changed how I think about the planet. For context, I had to go to Target to grab some stuff I needed for my new place. I don't have a washer and dryer yet, and the nearest laundromat is more than 5 blocks away. On a hot day, I didn't feel like walking that far until it got a little cooler and darker, because it's kind of embarrassing dropping your dirty drawers on the sidewalk in front of people. So I decided I would use the free time to buy some stuff I needed, then get it done. That's when this started. The only shirt that fit me or was good for that day was this full red shirt that I had. You can see where this is going. Basically, got to the store, started buying stuff and minding my own business. From behind me, I hear a "Excuse me, sir," but I ignore it because I didn't recognize the voice voice, and I assumed they were talking to an employee or something, so I just keep looking for the right kind of coffee creamer. I'm a big coffee guy, what can I say? About 10 seconds later, I hear another "Excuse me!" even louder this time. My first mistake was turning around and saying, "Do you need something?" I regret this action daily. She then proceeds to ask me, "Where's the cereal aisle?" in this annoyed-ass tone. I try to tell her that I don't work there, but then she cuts me off and says, "Just do your goddamn job and tell me where the cereal is at." Now, I watch r/ on YouTube, and probably Daily Dose of Reddit, right? I know where this is going, and at this point, I just want to leave. Also, do know I would have answered her question, but like I said, I just moved to this area, and this was my first time at this store, so I wasn't sure. I told her, "Look, lady, please back up. I don't freaking work here. Please just go away." She looks at me with this appalled look on her face, like as if I dared to talk back to her this way. She then proceeded to say the line we all know and love, "I want to speak to your freaking manager," and then proceeds to storm off. I think it's over and head to checkout to just get my crap and leave, but mid-checkout, not even 3 items scanned, I hear a "There he is!" from behind me, and no crap's about to hit the fan. I turn around and she actually successfully got the manager to come out and talk to me. He looks at me, assumes that I work there, and says, "Why would you talk to her like that?" At this point, I'm stunned. I've never seen these two people in my life and wish I never did. He then proceeded to say, "Come to my office so we can talk about this." Now, surprisingly, the first thing in my mind wasn't, "What the hell is going on?" but instead, "Targets have offices?" I said, "Sir, I don't know who you are and I don't work here. Let me just pay for my stuff and leave." He then started to yell at me about how I'm fired and this and that, and the lady's still yelling at me about how I'm disrespectful, yada yada yada. I just finished scanning with the clerk and leave. That's when this crazy bimbo grabs me and starts to try to throw me on the ground, yelling, "You ain't going nowhere, N-word!" Whoa. That's the moment I stopped caring and just twisted her wrist enough to make her let me go, and then pushed her onto the ground and started yelling back. I'm laughing thinking about it because it's so freaking unbelievable with some people. At this point, the cops are called. They still think I work there, and I wait. Eventually, I tell them my side, the manager tells them his side, and she tells them her side. With the injuries I had on me from her grabbing and punching me in the security camera footage, I got off scot-free and decided to press charges. Basically, she got a few years, the manager either got relocated or fired, I think, and I got home at like midnight with undone laundry. Laundry is officially my favorite thing to do, and I'm buying a washer and dryer tomorrow. Not sure if I'm supposed to do this here, but it's a long story, so screw it. Damn, OP, that's wild. I forgot laundromats were a thing. Jeez, that lady escalated the crap out of that like she's a space elevator.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.